All right, get ready to dive deep. We're cracking open Daniel the Apocalypse and taking a long look at the books of Daniel and Revelation.
Oh, this is going to be good. Two books, centuries apart, and yet so interconnected.
Right. It's amazing how they both grapple with faith, power, good versus evil, timeless stuff. But first, we got to meet our main man, Daniel.
Young guy, thrown into the lion's den, literally.
Well, not quite yet, but close. Imagine being 18, 20 years old, and suddenly you're plucked from everything you know and dropped into Babylon.
Talk about culture shock.
That was Daniel and his friends. Babylon, the epicenter of everything back then. And they were handpicked for their smarts to serve the king, Nebuchadnezzar.
Not just any king either. This guy was top dog. And the text makes it a point to mention, Daniel and his buddies, they were offered the best of the best. The king's food, his wine delicacies.
A total power move. Accept my hospitality. Be part of the inner circle.
It's like that, yeah. Big temptation for a young person, right? Fit in, enjoy the good life. But Daniel, he's like, thanks, but no thanks.
He stuck to his dietary laws, even when it meant standing out. Risky move, right?
Huge risk. Babylon was all about mixing cultures, religions, and food. Food was totally intertwined with their worship, their idols.
So for Daniel to eat would have been like saying, yeah, I'm cool with that.
Exactly. He was basically saying, I'm here to serve, but I won't abandon my beliefs, which you got to wonder. Could he have been a little less, obvious about it?
Yeah, like maybe find a way to blend in a bit. It makes you think about how people navigate those situations even today.
It's a tough one. Holding on to your beliefs when you're surrounded by different values. Definitely something to chew on. But speaking of tough spots, let's talk about that whole lion's den situation.
Ah, here we go. It's one of those stories everyone's heard of, but the details are wild. So the king, he makes this decree. No praying to anyone except me. I'm the only god around here.
Ego much.
Right. But Daniel, he's not fazed. He keeps right on praying to his God openly 3 times a day like it's nothing.
Talk about guts. He knew the consequences, what he was risking.
He did, and that's what makes it so powerful. It's like a blueprint for standing up for what you believe in no matter what.
No matter what, exactly. But Daniel, he wasn't just courageous. The guy was seriously sharp. Remember that dream King Nebuchadnezzar had? The one with the giant statue made of all these different metals?
Oh, yeah, creepy. Even the king's own advisors, those so-called wise guys, were stumped.
And here comes Daniel, not only remembering the dream, which, by the way, the king himself forgot, but also explaining what it meant. Each metal, gold, silver, bronze, iron, then clay at the feet.
Each one representing a different kingdom, right?
Exactly. A timeline of empires rising and falling, all laid out in a dream. Talk about a sneak peek into the future. It's what makes Daniel so fascinating.
It's like he could see the Matrix or something, connecting the spiritual with what's happening in the real world.
Totally. And that ability of his to see the patterns, to interpret, it comes up again big time in the story of Belshazzar's feast. And man, that one's got a spooky vibe.
Oh, yeah. Lay it on me.
Picture this. Massive party, music, people going wild, drinking from golden goblets stolen from the temple in Jerusalem. Everyone's having a blast, and then bam, a hand appears out of nowhere and writes on the wall.
Whoa, hold on. Like a disembodied hand?
A disembodied hand.
Okay, that's just creepy. I'd be checking my wine glass if I were there.
And get this, no one can figure out what the writing means except, you guessed it, Daniel.
Of course. He's the OG dream whisperer.
Exactly. And his interpretation, let's just say Belshazzar should have laid off the sacred wine.
Yeah.
Because that message on the wall, it was a judgment. The party was officially over.
And the timing, right? Talk about a buzzkill. It was like the prophecy was playing out in real time.
No kidding. That very night, Babylon falls to the Persians.
Like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of prophecies, we can't forget the big one in Daniel the 70 Weeks, chapter 9, if anyone wants to look it up. It's this whole timeline of events, super specific, and scholars have been debating it for ages.
It's intricate, super detailed, and the way it lines up with historical events is mind-blowing. It even pinpoints the year 27 AD when, let's just say, a pivotal figure enters the scene.
It's like a coded message, right? But hold on to your hats, folks, because we're switching gears now. From the historical drama of Daniel to Revelation. Get ready for some symbolism overload.
Fasten your seatbelts. We're going from Daniel stories to visions, creatures, cryptic messages. Revelations is next-level stuff.
Definitely not for the faint of heart, but it all starts with John, exiled on the island of Patmos. Can you imagine? Totally isolated, and then bam, divine visions hit you.
Talk about inspiration striking in unexpected places. and those messages he received. Not just for him, for everyone.
Timeless, right. And one of the first things John sees is this group of 7 churches. But they're not just regular churches. They represent something deeper, like different states of faith, you know?
Like a mirror reflecting how people actually live out their beliefs.
And some get a better report card than others, right?
The Church of Laodicea. Oof. They're called out for being lukewarm, neither hot nor cold.
And the message. God would rather have them pick a lane.
Tough love.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good point, right? Are we all in, or are we kind of just going through the motions?
Complacency. It's a real thing. And Revelation reminds us it's not enough to just be, about your beliefs. You got to own it. And speaking of choosing sides, we got to talk about the mark of the beast. Now, before anyone freaks out, this isn't about a literal mark, right?
Right. It's not about tattoos or microchips. It's about allegiance. Think of it like this. In ancient times, they used marks for ownership, right?
Yeah.
To brand cattle or even slaves.
It's a powerful image.
It is. And in Revelation, that mark, it represents choosing between good and evil. Where does your loyalty lie? Who are you following?
And that brings us to the stars of the show, the beast from the sea and the beast from the earth, chapter 13, y'all. These figures, they're often seen as representing oppressive powers trying to control people, especially people of faith.
And the imagery gets wild. One detail that always sticks with me. The beast from the earth making fire come down from heaven. Some people think it's talking about technology, how it can be used for good or evil.
It's a good point, right? We've come a long way, but has it always been for the better? It makes you think. And there's a clear link back to those beasts Daniel saw, each one a different empire. Both books, they're grappling with these power struggles, the rise and fall of empires. It's like a constant battle between good and evil playing out on a global scale.
And it's not just some ancient history lesson. Those battles, they're still happening today. Not always with armies and empires, but in the everyday choices we make.
It's wild, right? Like, history just keeps repeating these patterns. But okay, Revelation, it's not all doom and gloom, right?
Right.
We get that amazing vision of the New Jerusalem, chapters 21 and 22, folks.
Right. It's like this breath of fresh air after all the intense stuff. This incredible city, shining, beautiful, pearly gates, streets of gold. There's even a river of life flowing through it.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing, actually. But is it like a literal city? Or is it supposed to be symbolic, you know?
That's the beauty of Revelation. It makes you think. A physical place, a state of being, a promise for the future, or a hope we can hold on to right now. It's open to interpretation.
I like that. And maybe that's the point, isn't it, with both Daniel and Revelation? It's not about saying this is the only way to understand it. It's about making us think, making us look at our own lives.
Exactly. Think about the people in those stories. Daniel in Babylon, John writing to those churches. They were dealing with some heavy stuff, trying to stay true to themselves even when it was hard.
It makes you think, would I have the guts to do that? If I were in their shoes, how do you stand up for what you believe in, especially when everyone else is telling you you're wrong?
It's a tough question. But look at Daniel, right? Refusing the king's food. That took some serious courage. He could have just gone along with it, but he chose to make a stand.
It shows how important those choices are, even the small ones. And that whole thing with the mark of the beast, it's like this huge reminder. What are you willing to stand up for? Who are you really following?
Exactly. It's about thinking for yourself, not just blindly following the crowd. And having the guts to be different, even when it's hard.
Man, these books are full of wisdom, even after all this time. They're not just ancient history. They're like guides for how to live your life, you know?
They totally are. Guides for navigating a world that's always trying to pull you in different directions.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I gotta ask, what really stuck with you? What are you taking away from all this?
For me, it's that reminder to be brave, to stand up for what you believe in, even when it's hard, and to never underestimate the power of even small choices.
That's good stuff. This has been amazing. Thanks for taking us on this journey with Daniel and Revelation.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions. We'll see you on the next deep dive.